Hello and welcome to today's class. Today we'll be discussing the GS paper 2 questions. It's basically on the IR. See, the first question was, how does the international transboundary migration pose a threat to India's security? Next, discuss the strategies to curb them. Next, bring out the factors which gives impetus to such migration. Now, as you can see that I have already colored them into three colors I have used. Basically, to show you that this question has three parts, and this three parts of the question has to be attended within 100 to 150 words because it's a 10 markers question. But if it's a 15 markers question, you have the privilege to cross 200 words, but not more than that. Now, in this context, remember that keeping the question within the word limit is the biggest challenge. See, first of all, we have to pick out what actually it's talking about. It's talking about the illegal transboundary migration. So, in the intro part itself, we have to describe what is the illegal transboundary migration. Illegal transboundary migration is nothing but crossing the border of a particular nation without the necessary permission. Simple. Next, it says that how does it possesses a threat to the India's security. See, when it is talking about threat, it's basically talks about two types of threat. One can be internal security and the other could be socio-economic security because it says only security. Now, in terms of the internal security, it could lead to infiltration of the terrorist. Next, in terms of the socio-economic security, look into it. Increase in the burden of the available resources, hence causing distress to the social and the economic security. Part 2, strategies to curb them. See, joint cooperation with the neighbor, sealing the porous border, using technology for enhancing the border security. Simple strategies, nothing more to mention because we have to stick to the word limit. Next, part 3, factors giving impetus to such include civil war, example the Rakhine provinces of the Myanmar. If you understand what is this Rakhine provinces of the Myanmar, then do tell me that which ethnic community has came into India due to the conflict in the Rakhine provinces. Next, lack of opportunities such as the employment opportunities and all. Next, drought, flood, etc. are also responsible for your for this migration. Now then, let's come to the conclusion. What is the conclusion? Conclusion is simple that the illegal migration needs to be stopped for the betterment of our nation. Simple, nothing else. Next, how political leadership of a nation affects its foreign policy. Now understand this. First of all, we'll always use the IBC, that is your intro body conclusion, but what it is actually asking, it's actually talking about the foreign policy and political leadership. See, in the intro part itself, first of all, I'll describe what a foreign policy is. The foreign policy is nothing but the course of action and approach towards other nation. That is our foreign policy. Now, what is its relationship with the political leadership? See, a political leader or the head leader will actually design the foreign policy, will execute them, and will present them. Understand this in this three contexts: design, Narasimha Rao's Look-East policy, Manmohan Singh's Act-East policy, Narendra Modi's Beyond-East policy. In form of execution, Jawaharlal Nehru executed Panchasheel with Chinese Premier Zhou Enlai. Present them. Non-alignment movement of Jawaharlal Nehru. Jawaharlal Nehru during the Bantam conference presented the non-alignment movement. Now, remember that a political leadership basically designs, executes them, and presents them. But apart from that, in the conclusion itself, you need to write this point that a foreign policy is also affected by the strength and stability of the political leadership. Means, see, let us see in the context of the Modi, our Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Now, the Prime Minister is a very strong leader and his government is stable. Stable government means they have the majority in the, they have a simple majority in the Lok Sabha. Hence, their foreign policy is also strong. Remember this. Next, discuss the role of the Indian diaspora in national building. See, I have already discussed this Indian diaspora in our GES paper 2 test. You can look into them, but still then we need to again prepare the IBC. In the introduction itself, first of all, what I am going to say is that the 17.5 million Indian diaspora, that India has 17.5 million Indian diaspora as per the Global Migration Report. Next, how is the diaspora helping India national building? See, It's helping to build the economy by bringing investment. Next, again, these are some of the examples. I want you to write them down. Basically, I will basically be going through the answer sheets that Dheeraj sir has checked, just to see how you have already attempted this question, because this is a repeat question. For those who have attended, please, I would request you to go and watch this GS paper 2 tests. Over there is a question of the Indian diaspora. Next, it talks about the support to India during the Kargil war, again nuclear test, and the agreement between India and the US on the civil nuclear cooperation. See, if you do not know what is this nuclear test, what happened is that in 1998, when we went for the Pokhran test, what happened was that US US imposed sanctions on India. During that time, what happened is that the Indian community in the US lobbied for in favor of India. As a result, it was in 2005 that US, first of all, it reduced its sanction further, the US on the civil military yes, and it resulted in the united that civil nuclear cooperation with the United States. 1998, we had the Pokhran US sanction. It is the role of the Indian diaspora, as a result of which in 2005 we signed the US India civil nuclear agreement. As per this agreement, US had decided that US said that it will provide us with the necessary technology and material for the development of our nuclear power sector. Last but not least is the rehabilitation during the disaster. See, basically in today's context itself, in the COVID-19 case, you can see that the PM Cares Fund has already got so much money out of the so much money which has been provided by the Indian diaspora. You need to build up that. See, basically what I want you to do is that how the Indian diaspora is helping in the economic sector, how they are helping in the disaster management, how they are helping at the international, in the international level, etc. Next, critically examine the nature of the Indo-Pak relation with a special reference to the POK. See, it says that you have to specially, with reference to POK, you have to analyze the Indo-Pak relation. It is a 10 markers question. Now, in this context, please do not say that go from 1947 India got separate from the Pakistan, this, that, and all. That will completely waste your time. See, first of all, in this context, you need to first of all point out that what is this POK. In that itself, it's your intro. Now, if you can add a diagram like this, that could even add to your marks. At least I would say an examiner might give you 1.5 to 1 mark. But remember that 1.5 and 1 mark is also essential. See, in the POK is nothing but the Pakistan occupied Kashmir, or we can say that it's a part of the Jammu and Kashmir, or the integral part of India that has been illegally captured by Pakistan. So what is POK? Is nothing but an integral part of the India that has been illegally captured by Pakistan in 1947. Now, nature of relationship. Now, with respect to the nature of relationship, we can see is that with respect to the POK, the nature of relationship is hostile. Why is it hostile? Because Pak state-sponsored terrorism, number one, cross-border infiltration in Jammu and Kashmir. Next, again, Pak state border terrorism. It has led to civil unrest such as the stone pelting war in Jammu and Kashmir. Next, again, cross-border firing in the POK regions. Now, all this have led to the hostility between India and Pakistan, and as a result of which India responded to the surgical strikes. Again, the surgical strikes were made where none other than in the POK itself, that India has been carrying out this surgical strikes. Why? To basically to destroy the base, this which base we say, this terrorist base that are actually been built up in the POK. So in the conclusion, we can write that the resolution to the POK dispute is necessary for peace between India and Pakistan. It's that simple. Hence, with the resolution of the, or we can say that with the resolution of the with the resolution of the hostilities between India, with the resolution of the POK dispute, the hostilities between India and Pak can be reduced significantly. Next, there is also a question of the India's nuclear doctrine. Now, with respect to the India's nuclear doctrine, it's a straightforward question. It's completely given in your Lakshmikant, or you can completely see it in the Google. Now, again, there is a question on the BVIN MVA. The BVIN MVA, let me say you that it's nothing but your motor vehicle agreement between Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, and Nepal. BVIN. Now, see, the motor vehicle agreement allows the free transit of your vehicles between these four nations. But again, there are specific challenges. What are the specific challenges? That could be smuggling, number one. Smuggling, drug trafficking can take place. Again there is the movement of the fake currency can happen. Again, one of the biggest reason is that ki pollution. Remember that Bhutan got out of this BBIN because it was worried for the pollution that might occur because of the entry of the trucks from India and Bangladesh. See, this is a direct question. I would basically ask you to search and move on with this question. With respect to any other doubts, do please ask me over the Telegram. Thank you.